Hello, everybody. Rev Rick here, Broadman Baptist Church, with the Broadman Word for November 23rd, 2020. And as always, the Broadman Word is perspectives from the devotional New Morning Mercies. And today, I hope you're having a wonderful day in the Lord. It is a marvelous day to be one of His children and living as an ambassador of Christ in the kingdom. What an honor, what a privilege, and what a responsibility. It requires us to have a certain amount of obedience. And today I'm going to talk to you about worshipful obedience. You know, obedience is an act of thankful worship. It is not fear-based. It is not a fearful means of trying to gain favor with God. It is a worshipful act of thanks. And the reason is there's just nothing that we can do to gain God's favor. You accept this and remember it when we are professed believers. It's not possible for us to become righteous enough for long enough to satisfy God's holy requirements for His children. And our thoughts are never going to be able to be pure enough. Our desires are never going to be holy enough. Our words are never going to be clean enough. Our choices and actions will never be God honoring enough. It's just not really possible for us to do that as humans. The bar is just a little too high for that. So, and of course, despite what some people might think, there's no exceptions. There's nobody able to accomplish these things. So that then puts the equal weight of the law on all of us and the same inability of sin. We all have it. And, you know, truly, we're much better at being rebels than we are at being submissives. And we are more naturally proud than we are humble. And we're all more given to idolatry than we are to the worship of God. And we tend to engage in covetousness. We all want what somebody else has. And we do a much better job of making war with folks than we do making peace with them and loving them. And we can find envy much more satisfying than contentment. And then, in some way or another, we all end up being thieves of one form or another. And of course, we normally or naturally tend to bend the truth a little bit more than protect it. We condemn with our words more than we are filled with grace. And we lay down evidence every day that we will never be able to stand independently of God's standard for us. The statement that we should keep in mind comes from Romans. And it says, for by the works of the law, no human being will be justified in his sight. That's Romans 3:20. And so that's quite a statement. But why is it true? Well, it's true because all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. You've heard that one. That's Romans 3:23. So the language isn't anything except all-inclusive. It says no one, all. It doesn't leave any room for exceptions or being able to earn your way out of it. It is, for us, or should be, devastatingly humbling news that all people need to accept into their hearts and into their minds, into their sense of their identity, because it is that very hard to accept news that drives us towards the need for grace. It's not a doorway to some sort of depressive self-loathing. You know, oh, I'll never be able to do this, or oh, I'll never be able to do, I'm just a sinner. You know, God does not want that for us, but it does need to be a realization that apart from His grace, we're not going to ever be able to achieve anything close to salvation or righteousness of our own. It's only when you're able to accept who you are and what you are unable to do, then you begin to understand the true necessity of God's gift. So, putting this together, like Paul does in Romans 3, He writes, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. That's pretty easy to understand. But that's not the end of the story. There's more. He goes on to say, we are justified by his grace as a gift through the redemption that is Christ Jesus, whom God put forward as a propitiation by his blood to be received by faith. Notice it says to be received by faith. And then notice that the propitiation, or the satisfaction of to God, is by Christ, not by you. It is by his work on the cross, not anything we did. All we need to do to receive this is to have faith and to accept it. The propitiation is the atoning sacrifice. It's already been done for us. The sacrifice of Jesus appeased the wrath of God against humans for these inabilities that we have. And it, at the same time, created an ability for reconciliation between God and all who place their faith in him. So since God hates sin, his Christ, his son, had to come and pay the price for that sin, the penalty. You don't need to obey some sort of specific set of rules to earn God's favor. You simply have to return the love, and that in the act of returning that love, it should drive you to want to follow the teachings of Christ. You should want to please God because you love God, not because you're afraid of God, and not because you're afraid of what God might do to you. It's not inappropriate to be fearful of hell. I mean, who wouldn't? But that shouldn't be the driving force that causes you to abide in or have an abiding faith in God. It's love. Love received, grace received, and then returned. Christ has gained God's favor on your behalf, so you don't need to. So your obedience is never a fearful payment of some kind, but rather it's a hymn of gratitude to God, who met you where you were and did for you what you could not have ever done for yourself. And to dig into this a little bit further, Hebrews chapter 3 would be a great place to start. Listen, I hope this was helpful for you today. I hope you have come away with a little bit better understanding of our worshipful grace, our obedience through love and not fear. And mostly, I hope you go out into the world claiming your biblical authority as a child of God, understanding grace, coming to a full knowledge of spiritual things through the discipleship and study of the Word, so that you can always, in or out of season, have at the ready reasons for the hope that you have, and to truly be an ambassador of Christ in this world that so desperately needs it. I love you. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you next time.